Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
It all seems so promising. They pushed Joe Biden across the finish line and into the Oval Office, held their majority, albeit a diminished one, in the House, and pulled into a last-minute tie and effective majority in the Senate. Democrats had won the trifecta, the Triple Crown. But now the best-laid plans of mice and progressives appear to be headed to a not-so-distant ditch. This president has laid down a record number of executive decrees with the stroke of a pen, but virtually every one of the left's and Democrats' progressive or merely liberal legislative initiatives, other than the omnibus bill dressed up as a pandemic bailout, has died on the vine. Why has the left and the Democratic Party been unable to exploit their control of the White House and both branches of Congress to abolish the Senate filibuster and push through expanded voting rights, court packing, adding states, and a host of other left-wing proposals? And what does this mean for Republicans and conservatives? To help answer these questions, we bring in our latest power-packed B&B panel, the best and brightest from LibertyNation.com. Editor-in-Chief Lisa K. Donner.
Hi, Tim.
Managing Editor Mark Angelides.
Ahoy.
And Legal Affairs Editor and host of the Uprising podcast, Scott Cosenza.
Wait, just because we're doing panel, Tim, I don't lose the Guardian of Liberty title. Don't do me like that, my friend. Come on.
Well, it's a long show. I've still got time to drop that
right.
one in.
Fantastic.
Don't be so impatient.
All right.
Now, Lisa, let's jump right in by laying the groundwork for this at least 2-year run of Democratic control of the presidency and Congress. In looking at just how successful the Democrats really were in 2020, would you consider what happened in last November's election a mandate for the Democrats or something less? And why?
Well, I hardly think it was a mandate. I mean, there were significant losses in the House. There was a squeaker in the Senate, but a majority does have the onus on them to produce. A tweet by AOC this week was telling. She's like, let's go, people. We got to get this done. Well, the Dems are beginning to feel a little bit of pressure. Tick tock, tick tock. They rail against Joe Manchin, which I gather you're going to get into. But, Trump had his own mansion. His name was John McCain. So it's time to stop grumbling and put up or shut up.
Her abuela needs that cash right away. Did you see the picture of the condo? Willing
to translate abuela for us?
Oh, excuse me. I think actually the correct term now is abuelex. That's how you want to be really progressive. It's a grandmother in Spanish.
I suspect that AOC was trying to make a political point that hugely backfired on her. For that, she ended up having to turn down donations. I mean, who would do that if people were offering to rebuild when there was clearly a situation that apparently has lasted 3.5 years? Who would turn that down? It's suspect, to say the least.
For people who don't know, this is a Matt Walsh political skullduggery move that is just great. He set up a GoFundMe campaign to give money to AOC's grandmother, and then she's forced to either say, I don't want the money, which is what happened, in which case it renders the complaint that she's got a substandard living situation because of lack of funds moot, right? She wants the government to pay the money. That's the thing. And of course, it just lays bare the difference between socialism and the free market, which is that she needs a government check, not a personal check. Somehow it's not as good money.
I want to see one of these people stroke a check, to like people that they, work for them.
Well, let's not go overboard.
Why should somebody who earns over $100,000 a year with a very lucrative career in media coming right behind the time she gets removed from the New York congressional seat, why should she have to take care of her grandmother? I mean, that's the state's job, surely, to look after the elderly.
So, Mark, how many of the Biden voters do you believe were voting strictly against Donald Trump, no matter his opponent?
Actually, that's a really fascinating question, because you have to consider whether they're voting against Trump the person or Trump the idea that has been put across by the media, because they created this monstrous beast called Donald Trump that represented white supremacy. He represented stamping on women's rights. He represented Russia in the White House, in the Oval Office, and they created this monster. So were they voting against Donald Trump, or were they voting against the idea of Donald Trump that was a media creation? Now, many of the allegations against him that he was put in by Russia, according to opposition research by Hillary Clinton, that turned out to be a lie. We've heard the Fine People hoax. That turned out to be a lie. Most recently, we had the Lafayette Square clearance that apparently Donald Trump was responsible for. He cleared Lafayette Square of peaceful protesters so he could pose with a Bible. You know, that was a real dig against Christians.
It was almost as if they were saying like he was posing with a gun.
Absolutely.
At a church.
Yeah,
almost like it was a particularly crafted message to hurt Trump's base of voters, right?
You know, it just wasn't one lie. It was a lie repeated over and over and over. And, you know, they just make this stuff up. I mean, you just have...
Before the truth gets its pants on.
Right. Okay, so, Scott, mustn't progressives feel pretty much let down or led down a primrose path, seeing little done on their agenda after they reluctantly got behind Biden because he was the only available alternative to Trump?
Well, at one point, he became the only available alternative. I don't know that I agree that he was at the outset, but they were led down the primrose path with all kinds of goodies promised them. But it's American as apple pie to be profoundly disappointed with the people who are elected to office, whether you're a conservative, a libertarian, or a progressive. Hating on them after they get in there and disappoint you seems to be par for the course for all of us. The big wish list items haven't much come true yet, but we're still, relatively speaking, new into this administration. So we'll have to see. But he's come out hard against guns and all the kind of executive things that they can do, with the exception of immigration, I think. So it's a mixed bag for progressives, but grousing and being dissatisfied is certainly is par for the course. So,
God, I've got to disagree with you. I think that progressives would be massively let down. I really do. I really do feel that. I mean, they had the COVID relief package, which I might add was going to happen anyway. I mean, this was something. Trump actually offered $2,000 more, I believe, to the relief package, the COVID relief package. What substantial packages have passed since then? I mean, they're all cut up or dying a death on the doorstep of Congress. They promise unity. They can't even get. They have a majority with Kamala Harris as vice president vote, pushing to 51, but they haven't managed to pass any substantive legislation that wasn't already backed by Republicans. I don't think that progressives are happy with what's happened. I mean, just look at
Biden. What would Biden? Biden is doing what Biden can do for the most part, I think, and so that's where I think.
Chew gum, barely.
What's that?
Walk and chew gum, barely.
Who are we? We are Americans that believe in liberty. We are a project of the nonprofit One Generation Away. We are patriots who apply the founding principles to the issues of today.
And they keep moving the goalposts on us.
We are educators and commentators who love America and the Constitution. Who are we? We are Liberty Nation.